Hi everybody, my name is Mario and today I'm going to show you how to cook chicken parmesan. This is an Italian-American dish. It's probably 90% American and 10% Italian. It's inspired by Italian ingredients and very similar to eggplant parmesan, but instead it has chicken. A full list of the ingredients can be found in the video's description. I'm going to start by prepping the vegetables. So I cut this onion pole to pole and then peeled it. It's going to be roughly chopped up. If you want a smoother sauce, you can blend it after it's done cooking. I ended up using one onion, which I think was a little bit too much. So I would use about 3/4. Garlic is probably the second most important component of this dish behind the tomatoes and the sauce. So just make sure that you're using fresh garlic, and I smash mine to peel it. It's probably the easiest way. It comes out and it doesn't make your fingers sticky. So just mince up the garlic. We'll fry it up later. This is fresh parsley. I pretty much only add this in my sauce because my mom did when we were little, and she kept it in the freezer, and we joked that it looked like mom hiding her weed. To start cooking the sauce, use a stainless steel pot. I don't have one, so I'm using a heavy bottom Dutch oven, which is a very nice pot to use in substitution. So I just added the onion and some olive oil to saute it. I'm seasoning with salt and pepper. This is a good way to start your sauce. Once the onion's done, add in some more oil and then throw in your garlic and throw in your parsley. So we're just sauteing these to make them more fragrant. They can burn very easily, so make sure that you're constantly moving them with a wooden spoon. Do not abandon your pot. This stuff will burn and it'll taste bad. This is a tube of tomato paste. I use the tube because you can just insert a very small amount. According to Google, tomato paste adds nuance and body to your sauce. Here is a can of whole San Marzano tomatoes. I use the whole ones because they're supposed to be higher quality than the crushed ones, which could be from lesser quality tomatoes. And it needs to be a little bit more moist, so I've added some water. Just need to cover up all the vegetables. And this is a potato masher, or really anything you can use to crush up those whole tomatoes. Now at this point, we need to add some sugar to the sauce because it's too acidic, and this will help balance out that sour flavor. And I like to add red wine. I think red wine just tastes good in any kind of sauce that you're making. It makes it more full-bodied. So at this point, if your sauce is too thick or too chunky, you can run it through a blender and make it more smooth. For this recipe, I use chicken breast. You can use chicken thigh if you want a more moist dish, but generally we have leftover chicken breast because we're not huge fans of it. And this is a good way to, make it less dry and give it more flavor. So first thing I did was cut it in half to butterfly it, make it thin. This dish is gonna fry, so if you don't tenderize the meat and flatten it out and make it even, the outside will burn before the inside is done, and you cannot eat chicken medium rare. So put it in a Ziploc bag, get a meat tenderizer, and beat the meat so that it's pretty flat, pretty even. You don't have to hit it too hard. You don't want it to split apart or anything. At this thickness, it's good to go. It's time to bread the chicken. So first we're going to pour out some flour. Then we need to crack 2 eggs and optional buttermilk added to mix this together. The egg white and the egg yolk have different chemical properties, which will help the flour and the breadcrumbs to bind. So just mix it up well. Now I'm using panko breadcrumbs. You might want to use Italian breadcrumbs for seasoning, but I think panko have a better crunch. But they don't have the flavor, so I just added some Parmesan cheese and some pepper, salt and pepper. I'm attempting to mix this together, but this pan doesn't have the rounded edges, so I got to get my hand in there. Don't be afraid to just use your hands at any point when you're cooking. All right, so first dip the chicken breast in the flour. Flour sticks to chicken. Then put it in the egg wash. Try to touch it as little as you can because the more you touch it, the more this egg wash can stick to your fingers. And then plop it into the breadcrumbs. So here I'm trying to make sure that breadcrumbs are down first before I put my fingers on the chicken. Okay, this looks good, so put it somewhere to rest. This is the mozzarella cheese. You should use whole milk and low moisture mozzarella. Part skim just doesn't have as much flavor. And if you use the high moisture or regular, it's just going to get wet on your chicken. You want something that won't be as wet when it melts. Okay, I'm prepping the pan now. So use a neutral oil, canola oil, vegetable oil. Heat it up to medium and plop your chicken in. Once it's been about 3 minutes and you're seeing the brown on the outsides, it's time to flip. Just be really careful when you're flipping this because it can splash and oil can get out of the pan. So that was a little delicate, but could have been maybe nicer. I'm also covering to reduce splatter. Once I've done about 3 minutes on each side, it's ready. So I'm going to have this rest on a wire rack so that the bottom doesn't get soggy. It'll steam up, and if there's nowhere for that steam to escape, it can get soggy. All right, I'm putting in the second breast now, and right there I flopped it down, and the oil not only spilled out of the pan, but also got on the top of the chicken. So try to avoid that. This one has the crispy brown edges on the side, so it's ready to flip. I'm using, oh, should I grab it there? No, I can't figure it out. But once you flip it, whether you're using tongs or a spatula, just lay it down gently. Also, the pan is like pretty hot here. I didn't regulate the temperature as well as I should have, so this one's a little bit more brown than I would like. So just make sure as the pan gets hotter, you're lowering the heat. Okay, the chicken at this point should be almost fully cooked or fully cooked, but we want to melt the cheese, so we're prepping the baking sheet. You could also just do this in your pan if your pan can handle in the oven. So I put sauce on the bottom. It's a base layer of sauce. I didn't want to put too much on the top because it would make the chicken a little bit soggy. So once I have the chicken on there, you can optionally add some herbs. This is basil. But if you do that, right, you need to put cheese on the top to prevent the basil from wilting or burning. So again, this is mozzarella cheese covering the basil, and I am grating on some more Parmesan, or you could use Pecorino Romano. It's also a very good salty cheese as well. Putting just a little bit of sauce on the top to give it some contrasting color. And then pop it in your oven. I have this on the second from the topmost rack with the broiler on high. Once the cheese is melted, this dish is done. You can add in some extra cold sauce if too much of your sauce dried out, like mine did. I also suggest sprinkling over some fresh parsley for color contrast. Don't cut into this dish yet. Give it 5 minutes because if you cut in too quickly, a lot of the moisture will come out. So go ahead, give it a taste. If it's not good, well, there's nothing you can do now, but you could always try cooking it again. And this is how you cook Italian American chicken Parmesan. I hope you enjoy.